Check. Okay, that's great set of talks. Let's just dive into the panel. Yeah, by the way, this is the first time I moderate a panel that's only consists of human speakers. I used to mainly just orchestrate agents, but this is I guess it's much harder. So I have a few questions, and then after that we can also open to the audience, I think. For each question, I have two versions. Okay, so one is AI version. One is my own kind of phrasing of the question. You can pick any one of them. I would just ask both. Okay, the first one. Let's talk about game-changing AI agent. Okay, the AS version of the question. What is one AI agent or system you've recently encountered that's transforming how we build or deploy agentic systems? And what makes this framework or stack stand out? Okay, that's AS version. And my old version is, name one AI agent you recently used and thought was a game changer.
Okay, so one system I think I used a bit recently, and also, but more my students. Now, so one system I used, Agentic system I used recently, which I thought was pretty cool. Although my students use much more, and I know from them quite a bit. It's OpenEvolve, which is Alpha Evolve clone in the open source. And why is that? Because actually it can use it to come up with, say, some algorithms to optimize systems, which, maybe in the previous years were good enough to be part of scientific publications. So if you extrapolate that, this means that, we are going to do more and more research using these kind of systems, and we are approaching that, tipping point.
Yeah, great. Anyone else?
So there's 3 panelists here that have agentic frameworks. So I'll say all of them are great. I was on PTO for 2 weeks, and so in the AI world, that's like a century. And it looks like I'm really interested in checking out this wide research by Manus AI and seeing how it performs compared to some of the deep research platforms. There's also, I saw deep agents as well, and I'm curious to see how that stacks up, because I'm very interested in, a lot of these platforms, a lot of the frameworks struggle a bit with the like deep research type activities and being accurate and consistent. And so those are a couple I'd like to check out.
Hello? Yeah? Okay. I was going to say one obvious answer I think is actually MCP as a framework. I think it's been fantastic. It's super general. It's taken over. You can just put it in front of anything, and there are all these public servers that are out there. So I actually think MCP has been a really big boon for the agent ecosystem. I actually think there's still more to kind of figure out and dig there as well. Like, I think there's a lot of best practice around like how to create an MCP server, what functions and tools to give the model that are best, that I think we still need to figure out. But just the fact that we have this general, framework that can sit in front of any tool and talk to any model, I think is really great. And then the answer for the agent, I just use Cursor a lot in agent mode for all my weekend projects. It's just the vibe coding and just like letting it run loose on something that I'm trying to build has been really helpful.
Yeah. I mean, I can speak more. I mean, we have an agent framework, and so I would be a little bit biased there. But in terms of like the agent application, to echo Sherwin's point, I've been very interested in just like vibe coding recently. I'm sure many of you already do that, but like basically, I think the high-level idea is that the line between a programmer and a non-programmer is like pretty much blurring. Like if you know English and you can define a prompt, you can encode some sort of workflow, and then basically use that to generate some sort of application for you. And I'm personally very interested in how you can use these tools like Cursor, Claude Code, Windsurf, to basically generate agentic automations, because it's like AI generating like kind of more constrained AI for your personal needs. And I've already started doing that. We're probably going to put out tutorials on how you can do that with our stuff. But yeah.
So I think, obviously, I have to say Goose is great, but that's our agent. So I'll talk about something else instead, which is an MCP server that I think really changes how vibe coding works, which is Playwright. So this is for web, and it gives the agent a mechanism to more or less see what's being rendered like at the DOM element level and then manipulate them. And I think it turns it into this feedback loop where it can build just shockingly advanced projects, and it's that feedback that it brings back from the visual layer into the code. And so I think those kinds of innovations are where they're gonna get us to a place where you can take on bigger and bigger projects.
Yeah, I think all the vibe coding agents have really been changing the way me and also my students and other people I work with are doing things. Cursor, Claude Code, Goose. Really, honestly, I don't see like a huge difference between them, but you know, they're all getting better, and the new tools are making them all really good.
Right. So we have Alpha Evolve, we have Deep Research, Deep Agent, MCP, and vibe coding. Great. That's great answers. The next question, let's talk about unmet capability. The AS version is going to be, what's one capability you wish agentic AI systems could achieve today to revolutionize their frameworks, but they currently cannot, and why is it critical? And my version is, name one thing that you really wish an AI agent could do, but can't today.
I think one, I'll say two things, because we work pretty closely in this space by providing tools for developers basically build various types of agentic applications. And part of the goal of like providing any sort of framework is making sure that it's actually useful to you guys. Like there's certain pieces, especially with like vibe coding these days, that honestly like some parts of frameworks are not very useful anymore, and then other pieces could still potentially be relatively useful. The parts that aren't very useful are just like the wrappers around integrations, such that you like have some like LlamaIndex LangChain wrapper over OpenAI Anthropic. It's kind of like useless at this point. You can just like vibe code some API integration with OpenAI directly. The parts I think are still useful though is I feel like we haven't figured out the right abstractions for like a simple abstraction for how you actually inject context into an agent. And it's just like some simple memory management layer. Everything I've seen is either way too opinionated and you have to pay for, or it's like, it just doesn't actually give you enough things for you to actually do anything with it. And so that plus like this idea of MCP servers, and for us, we're very interested in documents, this idea of like being able to navigate certain files, inject those into context, and traverse like just massive volumes of context, I think are still missing from the framework side. But we're very interested in kind of building towards that.
So this was definitely the answer. This was also the answer that I wanted to give, which is memory. I think in general, like context management is the hardest problem with agents, and what you expect something that you work with every day to like remember and reuse is very far from what we can achieve right now. So you're starting from scratch. And I genuinely think that we don't have the right algorithm yet. Because imagine trying to do your job where you never remembered anything, but you had good search tools. It would be impossible. And so search is not, I think, quite the right shape, but I wish I knew what the answer was. I think that would be a very valuable answer to have. But I think we have to figure out, as almost a research area, like what is an algorithm that gives memory to the context window that actually can like span days and weeks and months of iteration.
2 votes for memory so far. Anything else?
I'll say a different one. I'm surprised basically that we haven't really solved hallucinations. Like models will still say things very confidently, and then we're building these UIs where people can review stuff, but it seems hard to solve that. So if you were to solve one thing, that would make a lot more reliable applications.
Hallucination. Okay.
Yeah, again, I would say, and I'll go back to what I'll say, and I'll go back to what I said in the talk. I think reliability is the number one for me. Problem needs to be solved. And the hallucination, I just shown Matej It's like I was trying to do something for my slides I didn't include in the slides with the top companies by market cap. It's a very simple question, right? And I'm not going to say the name, but one of the top models, top 2 or whatever you want to say, it just hallucinated. He was not able to give me the top 10 companies by market cap. And when you ask it, are you sure? Because obviously it's a mistake. Actually, the way I started asking for market cap, the top 10 companies by market cap from 1955. And I guess something with AT&T is the first place. I don't know what happens there. So, you know, I don't even, you know, it's fine. But then I thought, oh, let me ask also for today. Because for today, I kind of have an idea. And it was missing from the top 10, Google, Alphabet, and Meta, right? And when you ask again, it's like, are you sure about that? What about this? I say, oh, yeah. I'd give you the correct one. So maybe one thing is that they should say when they don't know that, right? They could say, I don't know. So I think that's one will be one of the things, very important things. But again, we need to somehow make progress in that, on that aspect. And when I was talking about specification, you know, in some sense, all this kind of, who says about the prompt, you don't know how to ask to construct the prompt, well, you know, good luck, right? But the prompt, whatever we do, is actually adding, it's specifying more details what we want to get from these models. And if you think about many of these agentic systems, and you have multiple LLMs collaborating, what you do actually, you build a system, you build a prompt, you know, appending to the prompt and so forth to come with the best prompt for the last, in the pipeline, for the last LLM in the pipeline to give you the right answer. And including that kind of trying to get more context and things like that.
Yeah, I would echo Matai and Ian that definitely reliability is that one, you know, issue that still hasn't been solved. And if we can't solve it with LLMs, can we really solve it with agents? That's, you know, the question to be answered. Also, there's also something related to that, which is consistency, right? And so if you're not getting consistent experience, the end user's not getting consistent experience, the interaction between multi-agent systems is not consistent. Obviously, reliability is a factor there, but you know, consistency and especially around the like multi-agent frameworks, right? Like, you know, Jan spoke beautifully to a lot of these challenges right now, and there's a lot of it's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of things that are unsolved in this space, and you know, I think it's a great time.
Yeah, reliability is a big deal. One way I'm trying to overcome that issue is I use multiple AIs. If I don't trust any single of them, I will cross-check. And that's actually the idea behind the MassGen project that I just introduced.
But they're all being trained on the same data, so that won't work.
You know, actually, one of you know, with LM Arena, one of the kind of killer use cases, people coming, like for instance, students, and asking to solve their problems. And it is talking with a few of them, because the killer feature is that they can get 2 answers. So if the answer is kind of the same, they have more confidence. Oh, this solution is good. And if the answer, even if the answers are different, then they can go into more details to see where they are different. But yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's fun discussion. So next question about technical blocker is related to the previous question. The AS version is, what's the biggest technical obstacle in building or deploying an agent with this desired capability? And how might advancements in frameworks or stacks address it? And my version is, what's the biggest technical blocker to build or deploy such an agent?
I do kind of think you don't really need a lot of framework stuff if the LLM is sufficiently good. Maybe it's a hot take, but you know, if you have a model that's sufficiently good at reasoning with like an infinite context window, honestly, a lot of the context engineering stuff is kind of just hacks, and so you're kind of like banking on the model getting better over time, such that there's no like loss in the middle or context rot. And so as a result, the agent architecture itself can actually simplify. I do think in that world, you know, in general, the job of like you as an AI engineer is less on kind of like hacks for context engineering and more on just being able to translate the actual like business requirements or like the task at hand into like a prompt or some workflow with the right tooling and context to solve the task. So I think in general, like I think the like as models get better, that is a technical blocker. you can actually simplify a lot of the ways you do orchestration today.
Yeah, I guess, Sherwin, you already mentioned quite a few in your talks about this question.
So
Yeah.
I think again is like, and again, I would go back and I think it's really similar what I'm going to say with Jerry, but you know, you need to learn, and we need to learn better about how to specify, how to be more precise with our prompts. Because this is how we do in humans, like in your team with humans, right? It's like, and it's like the effectiveness of your team, it's also driven by how well you communicate with the people, right? How well you specify what you want, and also, what does it mean success, okay? If I tell you I want something, I need to tell you also something, what does it mean a good job for that task I mentioned to you? So I think that's kind of is going to be more and more, it will be the focus as the LLMs are going to be more and more powerful.
Yeah, I'll say my answer is I think related to all of these, and it kind of touches on like this generalizability piece. But one thing that I think is a technical blocker is I would love to see these models be able to increase the time horizon in which they can have coherent reasoning and thinking. I think as this gets longer, you can solve, it's like not super elegant, but like it's a way to solve consistency, reliability as it's like checking itself. I think memory has a component to play here too. It's like as it's reasoning over, should be able to learn about the tools that it's using, which one doesn't work, which one does work. Just like how, you know, if you're a human dropped into a new workspace, you kind of like poke around and use that. And this kind of moves us towards a world that I think we might end up where the model is just really diligent, very smart, and just like a human, you know, you give it some tools that might not be that great, not the best searcher in the world, but it'll just diligently try and find and do the task for you. But I think it's just not very possible right now because these things can't really go beyond, you know, I'd say like tens of minutes. But once it gets longer than that, it'll be really exciting.
I have a random question for Sherwin. Do you think memory should be handled at the model layer or like outside of that?
I think outside of it. I mean, so we've explored a lot with memory internally, and everything we've done is done outside of the model layer. Also, anything once you start touching the model, it gets very expensive and, you know, a lot more complications. And we've seen good things just from outside.
Gotcha.
I also think like the project that Matej talked about too is a good example of this. Like, you know, it's even just at the prompt side, you can just really guide it and almost give it like a memory of from the policy and have it improve.
Yep, makes sense.
One different take on this is that I think we're dramatically underusing the capabilities we already have. And the main reason I think we have that problem is that access and connectors. Like, so MCP is, I'm very confident is the solution, but we need more of them for all the different like third-party things that you want to interact with. And then the better that gets, the harder just identity on the internet is the like major limitation that I think the industry needs to do better on, of like, hey, I just want to give this agent access to everything I can do without having it be 75 different OAuth flows or whatever it is along the way. And that's a very tractable problem, but I think it takes a lot of industry movement, and agents make it much more valuable than it was 2 years ago.
Great. We have very diverse perspectives for this question. So we have 3 minutes left, so let's do a rapid fire kind of round. For the next 3 questions. So AI's future edge. What is one task where agentic AI underperforms humans today, but you expect it to surpass human capabilities by, let's say, August next year, or the same time next year? And what stack improvements will drive this leap? And my version is, name one thing that you're confident that the AI agent does worse than you today, but will do better than you by the same time next year.
So my hot take is I actually think they're not like that great at coding yet, even though, you know, some of these agents are out there. Like, you can actually, I think it's like a mid-level engineer. You know, some of us are senior level engineers, and so I think definitely by next year coding will probably surpass that.
I think form filling and anything that requires manual data entry. I think humans are probably better at it right now, and also you would trust a human more. LLMs are certainly faster, but they're just not as accurate. But I see them surpassing humans.
I think we might be surprised that they excel at scientific research in the next year or so. There's a lot of investment being put in that space and a lot of research and you know, very specific domains, right? We could see something really, you know, emerge out of that.
I think vision is actually surprisingly bad now. VLMs have all these sort of holes in understanding. I think it's very tractable to improve it.
And both of those combined, I think data analysis and dashboarding, it's very close already.
Yeah. Let's quickly move on to the next question. Please. Sorry. Sorry.
So yeah, I think that a non-trivial number of, again, algorithms which are in these published at the top conferences in, say, systems networking databases are going to be, is going to be possible to do with this kind of new systems, agentic systems.
Yeah. So I think we're at the time. So let's thank all the panelists again. That's great insights. I hope you enjoyed the session. Thank you very much.